like everything about you. Everything about you.
Alright, hey everybody, and welcome to Zenfolio Live. I'm Robert with Zenfolio Customer Success, and I want to say thank you for joining us today on the live stream. Hey, if this is your first time hanging out with us, make sure you say hi in the chat, let us know where you're from. If this is not your first time hanging out with us, make sure you still say hi to us in the chat. We've got Craigslist hanging out already. Kathleen Riley says she's getting ready to go to Rochester, Minnesota for a dog show weekend. That sounds like a lot of fun, Kathleen. And then we've got Amy says it's finally cooling off. It's only going to be 100 today. I definitely feel your pain. It is not the coolest it could be here in North Carolina, although it is cooling off a little bit. I think the high today is only supposed to be like 90 if I'm correct. So I don't have a lot to complain about. It's definitely cooled off a lot, which I am more than happy for. So today we're going to be continuing on from last week. We're going to be talking about that high volume workflow for getting your clients to their images. This is going to be part 2, where we're going to show how to use a Zenfolio restricted event without being able to get the email. So one critical thing to using Zenfolio events has always been being able to get people's email addresses so you can email them directly to their galleries or to their images. And we know that that's not always the case, right? You're going to have times where you're going to have to shoot an event and you're going to get a participants list of just who's there, but you're not going to get any emails. Maybe you're going to photograph a school or a sporting event and you're going to get participants lists, and all information that you get is the people's names and what team they're on, and you don't get any kind of email or ID at all. Or maybe you just don't get anything from the leagues or schools that you're working with. And so I'm going to show you some things that you can do to still utilize a Zenfolio event so that you get that secure client gallery for all of the participants without requiring that you have their email. I'm going to show you how to set that up. We're going to go through and talk about what data that you need to make that Zenfolio restricted event work. I'm going to show you how to get your data sorted, how to pre-create that event, and then we're going to go and create what I've been calling a parent take-home sheet. So the biggest part of this to make it work is that you somehow have to get the information to the participants on how they actually get to their photos. And so today we're going to be doing a lot of work in Photoshop because I'm going to show you how to create one of these. I call this a participants list or parent take-home sheet. But basically half of this sheet is for you, the photographer, so that when you're photographing people, you know what you need to keyword into their photos. And then the bottom half is what you're going to give to that student, that participant or whatever, so they can take home to their parent, and it tells their parent how to access their photos. So we're actually be jumping into Photoshop and showing you how to create this and working with variables in Photoshop and showing you how to use the different situations where you might get data and you might not to create one of these and simplify that process. All right. I do want to say really quick that yesterday was the anniversary of 9/11, and wherever you fall on the fence of how you feel about that, it was a tragic day in history, and there was a lot of just unnecessary loss of life. Not that there was ever really a necessary loss of life, but it was a tragedy. However you fall on that fence, whatever you feel about it, whatever your thoughts, your beliefs are, I definitely just want to say that I just want to put my heart out there for those who lost family members in that, and I just want to just remind us, to just keep in mind those and not forget about that, so that we can move forward. We can build on that, and going forward, we can hopefully keep things like that from happening. It was such a tragic day, and I just want to make sure that we are remembering those who lost their life on that day. All right, let's see. Ollie is hanging out with us from Ollie Images. Hey, Ollie, thanks for jumping in and hanging out with us. And then we've got Darren Mark coming back, hanging out with us. And it looks like, that's Ollie, Lambo Stang. Okay, Lambo Stang GT. Nice name, I like it. All right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and jump into today's topic. We're going to talk about how to deal with these high volume events when you're not able to get information from your leagues or your schools. So let's just go ahead. Hey, and always though, I've got Richard hanging out with you guys in chat, taking care of you guys. So make sure that you show Richard some love, and let's go ahead and just jump into today's topic. I'm also going to warn you guys ahead of time too that my internet's been a little weird today. I don't know why I looked up that way. My router's not even in that direction. My internet's been a little bit weird today, so I'm hoping that it stays strong throughout this process. If things go glitchy, I really apologize. If it gets too bad and we have to stop the stream, then what we will do is I will just record this and push this out as a video so you guys have access to it. Again, my internet's been a little weird today. Hopefully it holds through, but we'll go ahead and get started here talking about this. Okay, so if you missed last week's, I cannot tell you how important it is to make sure that you go back and you watch last week's live stream so that you understand how a Zenfolio restricted event works. And if you're watching the recorded version of this, or if you're jumping on today and you missed last week's, the link to last week's live stream is actually in the description below this video. You can click on that. If you've never used a Zenfolio restricted event before, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you definitely want to make sure that you go back and watch that. And just to give you a short overview, a restricted event is a special thing in Zenfolio that allows you to get a lot of people to their images securely without having to actually go and create separate galleries and separate passwords for all of your participants. In a nutshell, that's what a Zenfolio event does. And today what we're going to be talking about is how to use that Zenfolio event if you cannot get parent emails. All right. And so sometimes when you're working with a league or a school and you request the data, you might get some kind of information like this. You might get something like their last name, their first name, a student ID, and maybe a class identifier. Or you might get something like this, to where you have the first name, the last name, and the class, but you don't have a student ID or any kind of unique identifier or anything like that. Or you might even get this. A big old whopping nothing, right? Depending on who you're working with, what information they feel like releasing to you, this might be what you have to work on. And so it's imperative to know that there are two main things that you absolutely need to have for a Zenfolio restricted event to work. The first one is that you need some kind of unique identifier. You need something that uniquely identifies each person in that event. Now, I know what you're thinking. Could that be the name? It could be the name, but if you're photographing a school or a sports team, chances are there's going to be some people with the same name, even maybe the same first name and last name. So you don't want to rely on a name. That's a bad route to take. The next thing that you need, though, is you also need some kind of like unique password. All right, so you need some kind of uniquely generated password, and Zenfolio will generate random passwords for you. But in a case where you're working with, you didn't get the information that you needed from the league, you're actually going to want to generate your own random passcodes for yourself. And it's actually not that hard. I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, what we're going to do is we're just going to work off of this sheet right here. Okay, so we're going to say, how do we do a Zenfolio event if we get first name and last name, and we get a student ID maybe and their class, but we don't really have emails? So if I create random passcodes for these people, and how do I get that information back to the parents, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to create that sheet that I showed you earlier. So basically what you're going to have is you're going to have a sheet for every person at the shoot, and on that sheet you're going to have their information so that when you photograph them, you photograph that sheet. And then at the bottom half of that sheet, you're going to have a little tear off that you give to them to take home that's going to give instructions to that participant or to that participant's parent to show them how to actually access their images. All right, and so what we need to do is we need to kind of prep this data that we have. Now, before I start going any further, I do want to point out, like as Darren's saying in the chat, this is a feature that's only available on the advanced plan. So if you have a pro account, a starter account, a premium account, you are not going to get access to the event feature. Now, I'm going to be spending most of my time today in Photoshop. So if you have Photoshop and you have an Excel or a sheet program or something like that, you can do a lot of what I'm doing in that. You just won't be able to make it work with Zenfolio unless you have the advanced plan. But I would stick around, because knowing how to work with data sets and variables in Photoshop as a photographer is a really, really valuable skill that you're going to want to make sure that you know how to do, because once you can do that, you can really start doing a lot of cool stuff in Photoshop with data sets that you get. Okay, so what we need to do with this data right here is basically we need to get this set up for our sheet. So again, I showed you that example sheet. Let me pull it back up really quick. I think I have it here saved somewhere. 1 second. So I showed you guys this example sheet right here. I'm going to drag it over here. We're going to create this in Photoshop, and it needs to update for each individual person because we're going to be taking their photos. So the top half is going to have their class name. If they're in a class, it's going to have their first and last names here, and whatever we've deemed to be their unique identifier, whether that's a student ID, whether it's a randomly generated passcode, this is going to be what we are going to keyword into the actual photos to make the Zenfolio event work. And then the bottom half of the sheet, this is what's going to go to the parents, are going to go home with that participant, because this is going to give the parent instructions, maybe talk to them about, you know, how much we enjoy taking their kids' photos or whatever you need to put in here. And it's going to give that parent their unique passcode to get to their child's photos. And it's also going to give them the link where they need to go to enter that passcode, which is going to be the Zenfolio event landing page. All right, and so this is what we're going to be making. So what I need to do is I need to take this set of data right here and kind of prep it so that I can take it in Photoshop and generate a sheet for each person. And so what we need to do first is we need to kind of come over here and set some things up. So the first thing is the unique identifier. It's totally fine to use student ID if that's what you want. You just need to remember that you are going to be keywording that unique identifier into everybody's photos. And so if you want to use what's provided, if you want to use student ID, you can do that. But if the student ID is something crazy like this, you might think about creating your own unique identifier that would be like in a sequence. So when you're doing this, it would be a little bit easier for you to keyword the photos, and you're not having to keyword in all these crazy numbers and stuff. So what we're going to do first to prep this data is we're going to sort this, because when we pull this into Photoshop and we create these sheets, they're going to be created in the order that this is sorted. And when you go to the school or wherever you're going, you want to kind of have this in some sorted order so that you can distribute it as easy as possible. And so most of the time that's going to be first you want to sort it by their class or their group, and then you're going to probably want to sort it by their first and last name. So what we're going to do is we're going to sort this sheet out first and kind of get it ready. So I'm just going to select this data right here, and we're going to go up here to, I think it's under data. So under data, and I'm working in Google Sheets, you guys. I love Google Sheets. You guys will hear me talk about Google Sheets all the time. It is by far my favorite spreadsheet program because it's free, for one. For two, you can access it anywhere you need. You can just log into your Google account and it's there. But we're going to sort this data. So we're going to go up here to data, and we're going to go to sort range. And I want to sort this by putting the class in alphabetical order. So I'm going to say data has a header row. We're going to sort by, and we're going to go with class, and we're going to go A to Z on the class right here. Then I'm going to add another sort column, and we're going to sort by the last name A to Z, and I'm going to hit sort. And so now what that did was that sorted this, all the classes are together, and then the last names are in alphabetical order, so that when I create the sheet, when I print everything out, it's going to be in this nice order, so that on shoot day, when the kids are coming in and they tell me their name and what class they're in, it's going to be really easy for whoever's distributing these out to look through and find that kid's paper. All right. And again, there are third-party services that do a lot of this stuff. I'm showing you guys how to do it so that you understand if you have to do it on your own, this is how you can do it, this is how it works, and this is a possible way that you can do it on your own. All right, so we have our information sorted. There's a couple more things we need to do to really get this ready for that event. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to join the last name and the last name and the first name together. I want to join it together because on this sheet up here in the top, I'm going to have that information right here together, and that way it's just easy for me to look through it. So what we're going to do is we're going to just insert a column over to the left, and then we're going to go right here, and I'm just going to type in full name like this. Now you're going to notice that my headers are all one word, even though they should be two words. That's on purpose. That's going to come into play later on when we jump into Photoshop. All right, so we're going to join the last name and the first name together. So we're going to write a join filters or join formula. So I'm going to write this equals the word join. And then what we're going to do is we are not going to join them together by a comma, because we still have to upload this CSV file into Zenfolio for our event. And if you put a comma together in there, it's going to throw off the formatting. So we are going to join the first and the last name with just like a dash or something like that. And then we're going to do a quotation mark again, and then we're going to tell the formula that we want to join these two columns together, and we're going to close it out. So now we have it like this. And then you just click that first one, scroll down on your sheet to the very last down here, find the last set of data, hold shift, click right here, and then I'm on a Mac, so I'm doing Command and D, which is going to bring that formula all the way down, and I have everybody's first and last name together in there. All right. Okay, so now that we have that done, the next thing that we want to do is we want to probably go ahead and change this unique identifier. They gave us student IDs. That's really nice that they gave us student IDs. But I don't want to have to keyword these long, crazy student IDs into the photos. I don't want to have to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own unique identifier, and we're just going to use a row formula to do this. So we're going to click in here, and give me 1 second, and let me get this zoomed in so you guys can see this just a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this header from student ID to just say ID. And then what I'm going to do is click in here, and I'm going to write a row formula. Now, let's say this is Poto High School that I'm about to go photograph, and I want to use the ID of PHS followed by a sequence of numbers to key in keyword into the photos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a formula, and let me just zoom in here really quick so you guys can see this. I'm going to write in here, we're going to write this equals the text that we want, which I'm going to do PHS because that's the leading text that I want. And then I'm going to do the and symbol, and then I'm going to write the word row. I'm going to do 2 parentheses. I think that's what they're called, parentheses. And then we need to offset this. So I'm going to do a plus 98. And we're going to hit enter. And basically what that did was that created PHS 100. Then I can click on this, scroll down to the bottom, hold shift, click here, Command D, and now I have a really easy to keyword, easy to type out unique identifier for everybody on this list because I did not want to have to type out that keyword. All right. And so the next thing that we want to do is we want to give these people or these participants some kind of unique password because obviously PHS 100 is pretty easy to figure out. If that's mine, I can just type in a 1002 or a 1003, right? And so we're going to give everybody a unique passcode. Now you could go ahead and upload this participants list into Zenfolio and let us generate that random passcode for you. But when you do that, you're kind of creating an extra step because then you have to get that random passcode back out of Zenfolio onto this sheet and then into Photoshop so you can distribute this out to your parents. And so there's a formula, and the formula that I'm about to write, please don't ask me to explain it. If you're a mathematician or somebody that's got a degree in this stuff, you probably know. The formula that I'm about to write, actually I'm going to copy and paste it, but that formula is also in the description below this video. So if you want to use it, go down to the description below the video and copy that formula, and you can use it to generate random passcodes. So that formula looks like this, and I'm just copying it now because there's no way I'm going to be able to remember how to write it. But what I'm going to do is just go right here on my sheet. We're going to insert a column on the right, and I'm going to call this column passcode. And then this is the formula that's going to generate that random passcode right here. And again, this is down in the video description if you need to use this to create some random passcodes. I'm going to click on it so you can see what it looks like. It's decimal to hexagonal number. I don't know what that means. And then it chooses some random numbers and creates this random passcode. And then just like we've done before, what we're going to do is click on this, go down to the bottom, hold shift, click right here, and hit Command D. And now we have a bunch of randomly generated passcodes. Now the one thing you need to know about this is that this will continuously randomize these passcodes if you update your sheet. What I mean by that is, there, Craigslist knew what it was. What I mean by that is that if I come over here and I edit this sheet whatsoever, all of those passcodes change. So what you want to do to not have to deal with that all the time is once you have this created, click on it, do a Command C on the entire column, right click, paste special. Paste special, my mouse is moving really slow. Paste special, paste values only. And that is going to, wow, my mouse is like extremely slow right now. There we go. I don't know what was going on. And that's going to basically turn these into hard data, and you don't have to worry about that passcode constantly updating on you, which could be really frustrating. All right. Hopefully I haven't lost you guys yet. I know this has been a little confusing, but again, this is for high volume stuff, and this is for dealing with if you... And my mouse connection just got lost. Sweet. I'm going to have to use my... Oh, there we go. Okay. So this is for dealing with high volume situations where you cannot get parent emails. So what we have is we have our data straightened out. We have the data that we need. Now, I didn't show you guys what to do if you're not able to get participant emails, or if you're not even able to get participants, and we'll talk about that in a second. But what we're going to do is we're going to jump in Zenfolio with this, and we're going to go ahead and create our restricted event. So I'm going to go File, Download, comma separated value sheet, and we're just going to save this somewhere on our computer. And let me zoom out so everybody can see this. Let me just drag this. Can I drag you down? I can't drag you down. One second, let me zoom out. All right, so we're going to go File, File, Download as, comma separated value sheet, and then I'm just going to save this on my computer somewhere, and I'm just going to call this part data 1. All right. Okay. So now that we've saved that, what we're going to do is we're going to jump back in Zenfolio and we're going to go ahead and create our event. Now, what we're doing is we're creating our event because we need the event link, because we're going to be putting that in that sheet that we're going to be handing out to our parents or to the kid when we photograph them. And so you're going to go in Zenfolio. And again, if you're not familiar with events, watch the video below in the description first. Otherwise, you're probably really confused. So make sure that you watch that. But we're going to go down in here. And what we're going to do is I have a sports event group. I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to say new group, and I'm just going to call this PHS event. All right, so this is just a demo. And then I'm going to go ahead and convert that folder into an event. So I'm going to hover over it, click this, convert to an event. It's going to ask me what type of event I want. In this case, I'm going to say restricted by passcode. And then what we're going to do is we're going to upload that CSV file that I just downloaded. So it's this one right here with all of these different columns that we created. So we're going to update that. Now, once we get it updated, we have to say, what is the unique ID column, right? So it's asking us what column do we plan on keywording into the photos. Well, that's going to be that ID column that I created, that PHS 001, 002, all of that. So that's what we're choosing here. Next, for passcodes, it wants to know if we've created passcodes or if we want Zenfolio to randomly create passcodes. In this case, we use that formula to go ahead and generate those random passcodes. So we're going to click on this and we're going to say passcodes, and then we're going to hit save. All right, and so now it says there's 100 participants that have been imported, all of that good stuff. We can click here and we can see our participant information right here. The full name, last name, first name, class, passcode, which is that passcode that we generated, their ID, all of that good stuff. Now you're going to notice there's no photos in here. That's because we're creating the event before we actually upload the photos. And the reason that we're doing this is because the next thing that we want to do is we want to go down to the event right here. So we're just going to get out of this and go back. We're going to go down to the event, make sure that we're clicked on the event, and then we're going to come up here to access. You're going to go to sharing, and you're going to toggle this friendly URL on right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to put in an event ID, because this is what's going to allow you to simplify the URL to the event landing page. And so I'm going to put PHS right in here, and that changed my URL right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this URL and open it in another tab just for now, so we have it setting by here. Oops, let me get back. Let me copy that URL right here and just paste it in another tab right there. Okay, just so I have it in another tab standing by. All right, now it's not showing up yet because I haven't saved this. So now that I save this, if I go back here and I refresh this, now we have that event landing page. So we have squared away our data, we've pre-created the event, we've uploaded our participants list. Now this is all stuff that we're doing before the shoot. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take that data, we're going to bring it in Photoshop, and this is what's going to let us create our take-home sheets so that at the day of the shoot, we can photograph that shoot or that sheet for the kid, photograph the kid, we'll give him the bottom half and we'll keep the top half, or we can give him the whole thing. And that's what's going to tell parents how to get to their photos. And that's what's going to let us know when we're going through the photos how we need to keyword the photos that we're looking at. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in Photoshop. And I've got this just blank document created here. So just let me show you what I have so far. This is just a normal letter document that I've created in Photoshop. And what I have are some info text, right? So I have like my contact information. This would be like instructions to the parents or whatever thank you message that you want. This is a QR code. Now I created this with a free online QR code creator. It goes right to the event. And then there's just kind of these sections where information is going to be updated per participant. And if you're like still wondering like what exactly are we doing today, we're about to get there. We're getting really close. So if you're thinking like, man, I'm totally lost, just hang on for a few more minutes. I promise this is all going to come together and make sense here in just a few more minutes. All right. But remember, I copied that link. So what I want to do is I want to go down and update this link right here because we want them to go to that event link, and that's where they're going to enter their kid's passcode to see their kids' photos. So I'm going to go to my info text folder that I did right here, and we're just going to go down here to find out where it says that at. And you guys probably can't see everything. Let me drag it up here. Let me just drag Photoshop up here and get it sized in. There we go. Up a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go right here. Let me find it right here. So here's the link right here. And I'm just going to update that event link with that link that I just copied. So I'm just going to go here, and we're just going to paste this in. All right. And it's a little long. Let me just remove this out of there. There we go. Okay. So that's the event link. That's where they would need to go to enter their passcode. If you have a custom URL like through GoDaddy or something like that, that's what you would be putting here along with that event modifier that I added right here for the event with the friendly URL. Okay. We have this document created. It's time to get our information in for the participants. And this is where we're going to make variables because we need to make a sheet for everybody that we're going to photograph. That would take forever to sit here and manually do this. This is where we're going to start working with variables in Photoshop. And if you don't do any kind of volume photography, if you don't do any kind of volume photography at all, this is still really useful to know how to do for a lot of different things. If you need to make flyers, if you need to make anything, maybe you do a Santa Claus shoot and you want to make a really cool like border and have it have the person's name on there that you photographed. Using variables in Photoshop is how you do that without manually doing it for every single person. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start creating our variable text layers. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is get that example back up here really quick because I don't remember exactly how I had it set up. There we go. So let me just open up that example. And so we're going to create this sheet right here. So what I need first of all is up in the top left corner, and I recommend having a guide set up so that you can kind of grid this out. I just did a Command H to show that guide. If you're not familiar with how to use Photoshop guides, they're super helpful to help you lay out your documents. But what I'm going to do is just start creating my variables. So I'm actually going to create a new folder first. So I'm just going to go create a new folder, and I'm going to call this variables. And then inside of this folder, I'm going to start creating this. So what I'm going to do is click on this, and I'm going to go right here. And what I'm creating first is the class variable. So you could write the name class if you want, and then you're just going to be adjusting your text to the size that you want it to be. And you could write the word class. What I would suggest doing is writing out the actual data that's going to be here for somebody. So this is going to be their class name. So I'm going to write Anderson. And the next thing that I'm going to do is make sure that this text is set up the way that I want. And I'm going to make sure that the alignment is to the left because this text is going to be changing for each person, and we want to make sure that it fits and doesn't go off the page. So now I have this variable set up in here. All right, and it just says Anderson, but what we're going to do is we are going to rename this. Now, I have to rename these layers to let me know that they're my variables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, I'm going to put the letter V, and then I'm going to write the word class. So that's my class variable. All right. Now the next thing that I want is I want to be able to have their last name and their first name along this top line. So I'm going to go and just create that really quick. So I'm just going back to my text tool, clicking right here. And then I'm just going to write Mendez, and then I'll do a dash, and I'll say Donovan. All right. And again, making sure it's left aligned, making sure the size is okay and all of that, and then just kind of positioning this where I want it to be. And then renaming the layer to my variable. So going right over here, and I'm saying V and that's full name. And all this is about to make sense, you guys. I promise. We're getting so close. So just hang out. I promise we're almost there. All right, so now we have that. So the next thing that we need is when we're photographing these kids, I need to know later on in post what I'm supposed to be keywording in those. And so what we did was we created unique identifiers, which is what we're going to be keywording into the photos. And I want that really big right here because I'm actually going to take a picture of this before I photograph that kid. And so we're going to go back to our text tool, click right here, and those variables look like this, PHS, or those identifiers look like this, PHS 100 or 101. And what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to go ahead and make this large because I'm going to be looking at this in post. I don't want to have to squint. And this is going to be the only variable that I'm going to center a line. So I'm going to center align this, and then we're going to grab it and line it up in the center right here like this. All right. And guys, that's pretty much it for the top half of this sheet. All right, so I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go VID because that's the ID. And now we're going to set up our variables for the bottom of the sheet down here. So we want first name, last name, and passcode is the only variables that we need to add. Now, why is first name and last name on the bottom half of the sheet when it's up at the top? Because if you do cut this sheet in half and you give this to that kid, chances are some kids might lose it. They might drop it. And if somebody picks up the bottom half of the sheet, it's nice to know who this actually belongs to. So that's why I'm including the first and last name on the bottom. Now, if you don't plan on cutting these in half and you're just going to give these to the participants without doing any of that, and you're just going to give it to them and have them take it, you could probably leave this part off, the first and last name down here. But if you plan on cutting it in half or having them cut in half before, you definitely want to have their name down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a variable for the first and last name. So again, go back to the text tool. First name is Donovan. I'm going to make sure that I resize that back down, make it a little bit smaller. Make sure that I go back to being left aligned. Grab his name right here. And we're just going to slide it over where we want it to be. And then I'm going to go right over here. And we're going to do V first name. All right, so V first name. Next, we're going to do the last name. So we're going to come back over here. Click here again. Last name was Mendez. All right, it's already left aligned. We're just going to grab it and line it up right over here. And then we're going to change that name to say V last name. Okay. Now, the nice thing about this, guys, is once you get this document set up, you can reuse this over and over and over and over again for all of your shoots. It looks like a long time setting this up, and it looks really complicated. Once you get this done, you can keep using this for all of your events, and you're just going to save it as a template. So one last variable to get in here, and that's going to be the passcode variable down here. So I'm just going back to my text tool, going to go here, and I'm just going to write in a passcode, just something random. Now this one, I'm going to go ahead and make that passcode red because I want people to pay attention to that. So I'm just going to make that passcode nice, bright, and red, and then I'm going to grab it and drag it over here. Whoops, let me get my drag tool. Drag it over here next to that. All right, and again, we're just going to rename this. So that is going to be, oops, my mouse is clicking weird. That's going to be V passcode. Okay, so V and passcode. All right, so we have a variable for the passcode. We have a variable for the first and last name. We have a variable for the ID, and we have a variable for the full name and the class. Why did I say all that? Because we have a variable for each column that we have on our CSV file. I cannot stress enough how important that is. You have to have a variable for each column that you have on your CSV file when you're bringing that in Photoshop. So if you have extra columns, before you bring this into Photoshop, which we're going to do here in a second, you need to delete or remove those extra columns or make a copy and get rid of them and just bring in the necessary information. All right, so once you have your variable layers created, the next step is to define them in Photoshop as a variable. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go up to image on your menu, and I know you guys can't see it, I'm sorry, but you're going to go to the image menu, and then you're going to go to variables right here, and there's going to be an option to define variables. So we're going to click define, and you're going to get a little pop-up window that looks like this. And what you want to do, what makes this really helpful, is go ahead and drag Photoshop out of the way. Just drag it up out of the way and have this window open where you can see your headers right here, because when we name our variables in Photoshop, we need to make sure that the name matches the CSV file headers. So here's what we're going to do. This is our layer, and if I open this up, it's going to show every single layer that we have in our Photoshop document. This is why I put the V's in front of my variable layers and I put them in a folder. That way they're really easy to find. If you've got a lot of different layers, you can do some looking around. As long as you put them in a folder and you name them with that V, it's going to be really easy to find those layers. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the variables, and we can just start out with doing it in order. So we can do like, okay, V passcode. Let's click on that. That variable is a text replacement variable, and we need to name this passcode so that it matches our CSV file. So we're going to go here and name that variable passcode. Okay? And then we're going to click back up here and just go down the list. Now, once we define in that text layer as a variable, it's going to add a star by it. So now we're going down to last name, and we're doing the same thing. Text replacement variable, and that is last name. And that is why I have these as one word, because you have to have it as one word in Photoshop and they have to match. So that's why I specifically did it that way. And we're just going to repeat this step. We're going to keep going down. So text replacement first name. Here we go. First name. And then ID is a text replacement. We're going to name this ID. And then I feel like, what is that movie, Dude, Where's Your Car? And then, so this is going to be the full name variable. So I'm going to say full name. And then the last one is class, text replacement variable and class. So all of our header rows were used as variables. All the names match. That's really, really important. So then you're going to hit OK. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go back in Photoshop. You're going to go back up to that same image menu, and you're going to go back to variables, and you're going to go now to data sets. So now that you've defined your variables, you have the option to import data sets. And so you're going to go data set, and this is where you're going to upload that CSV file that we were just looking at. So we're going to say import. We're going to select the file, and we're going to find that file, which I think is this one right here. So I'm just looking, that's the one. So we're going to open that, and we're going to hit OK. And so now, guys, now you get to see what this does. So if I hit apply, all of this text is going to change. So right now, we're looking at each person on our list. So like if I go here and scroll down my list, you're seeing all of the first and last names from that CSV file. And if I click on this person right here and I hit apply, that's going to apply all of their data to this entire sheet. So it changed the class name, it changed their keyword, it changed the first and last name down here, it changed their passcode, right? So now that we have that data set in here and we have this working, all we have to do is create a file for each person. And this is where all of that work that we just put in comes into play, because now what you're going to do is you're going to go to File. Well, actually, first you're going to click OK. You're going to go to File, Export, and you're going to say Export Data Sets as Files. You're going to choose that option, and then you're going to export them into a folder. So I'm going to go to a folder, and I'll just say this is my PHS shoot. All right, and we're going to hit choose, and then we're going to hit OK, and this is going to make a file for every single person on that list into that folder. All right, and then all you have to do is get those printed out, and now you have those take-home sheets for everybody that comes to the shoot because you've got the information there. So this is almost done. I probably should have processed a few less, but there's 100 in here, so it's going through and processing all of these, and then I'll show you guys what that looks like. Now, it is going to export these files as PSD files. So if I pull up my Finder window really quick right here, we're going to have a folder with a PSD file for every single person in here. So every single person is in here, and this is going to be in the order that they were on that CSV file, which is why at the beginning I showed you to sort it by class and by last name, because now this is in that order by class and last name, so that when you print it out, you're at the school, the kids start coming in, you have these sorted by class and by last name, and maybe you have your assistant asking people their names when they come in and handing these sheets out. Okay, but again, these are in PSD. If you need to get them into a different format to print them, what you're going to do is go back up to File, and you're going to go to Scripts right here, and there's an image processor, and that's going to bring up a window that looks like this. Okay, so that's going to bring up a window that looks like this, and you're going to first of all select the folder of images that you want to process. So we're going to select that PHS shoot folder that I just exported, and then you're going to save them in the same location if you want, and you can save them as a JPEG, and then you run this, and this is basically going to process all of those. And I probably should not have done that because there's 100 in there. This is probably going to take a little bit of time, maybe not, but it's going to process all of those, and what that's doing is it's creating a JPEG file for each one of those. So if I bring this folder up right here, if we go down to the bottom, there's a JPEG folder, and we now have JPEGs for each and every one of those participants that we can then print out. All right? And so after that, you print them out, you go to the shoot, you have an assistant, or maybe you have these piled at your desk by your camera. Kid comes up, you ask them what class, what name, you give them their photo or give them their paper. You take a picture of that unique identifier code, then you take their photographs. They take that sheet home. It has the website address and their unique passcode on it. All you have to do is keyword the photos with their unique identifier, upload those into that event, and then the parents will be able to go to the link on that sheet, enter their passcode, and be taken right to their kids' photos. So again, if you're not familiar with Zenfolio events, make sure that you circle back and you watch that first video, and that will show you how to do that other part of it where you upload the photos and how you keyword them and all of that. I even go into Lightroom and keyword photos on last week's video as well. But that's it for today, guys. I know that was long. I know that was really complicated. I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure that we got this video out because we have so many people who want to use Zenfolio events, but they tell us, hey, I can't get parent emails. How do I get people to their kids' photos? How do I let them know how to access their photos? I can't email them. This is how you do it. You make those sheets for them so that they have something to take home. Now, you don't have to hand those sheets to the kids if you don't want to. You can give them to the school, have them distribute it, however it needs to happen. But this way, you can get that information into the parents' hands. They can go to the website, enter their passcode, and go right to see just their kids' photos. All right. Hey, if you guys have questions, make sure that you're getting those in the chat. I'm sorry I went so long today. We've got about 13 minutes left. So I'm going to grab a couple of email questions. I know that I do have some email questions I need to answer, but if you guys have questions, hopefully you're not all just sitting there like totally confused. Hopefully that made some kind of sense to you guys. But if you have questions, let me know. Again, the formula that I use to generate the random passcodes is in the description below the video. If you plan on using that, make sure that you get that and you copy it. But again, this is a really good way that if you can't get emails from the leagues, you can get that information back into the parents' hands so they can access those photos. And so you can use the really powerful Zenfolio restricted event feature. All right, let me grab an email question. And really quick, if you're watching the recorded version of this, I would love to have you come hang out with me on a live stream, which is why I'm so thankful for Ollie, Kathleen, Craigslist, Darren, Roxanne, Amy, everybody else who's hanging out with me today. I really appreciate you guys who are hanging out with me live week after week. You guys are so awesome, and the community that goes on in that chat is amazing to see. But I'm also really thankful for those of you guys who watch the recorded version of this as well. But if you have a question that you'd like for me to answer the following week, there is a link below the video that says, what does it say? One second. It says questions for Zenfolio Live next week or something like that. You can click that link and that will take you to our forums where you can actually post a question and we'll answer it the following week. Craigslist says, can I do this in Corel Paint? I have no idea. I know how to do it in Photoshop. Not sure if Corel Paint has the ability to work with data sets or not. Not familiar with that program, but if that program allows you to bring in and define variables and import CSV files, you can probably do it in Corel Paint as well, as long as it lets you bring in data sets. I have no idea. And guys, the reason I did this in Photoshop is because I created a really ugly document, but you could go in there and get really creative. You could have a nice background, a really well laid out design. There's lots of things you can do. The key thing that I wanted you guys to take away today was how to get that data set and define variables in Photoshop, because once you understand how to do that, the possibilities that you can do with that are really endless. There's so much you can do with that as long as you understand how that works, and it's really going to speed up workflow if you have a lot of things like that that you need to create and you have that data. All right, let me grab an email question really quick. Let's see. How can I make sure that when my clients purchase, they receive a digital copy as well? Can I bundle the two products? So I think what this question is you want to know if somebody buys something from you, you want to make sure that they receive a digital copy as well. Well, what you can do is you can put digitals and prints into a package together, right? So you can put digitals and prints into a package together, and when somebody buys that package, they're going to get the prints and they'll get the digital downloads as well. Now, if you're not familiar with how to sell digital downloads at all through Zenfolio, there's a video on our YouTube channel. I definitely suggest that you check it out. It's called How to Sell Digital Products Online. It will walk you through 100% the entire process of creating digital products and selling them on Zenfolio. I'm going to show you how to take a digital product and put it in a package with prints so that you can get those for sale. Okay, so let me go into selling. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into the package feature. So we're going to go to packages and we're just going to add a new package really quick. I have tons of packages in here. We're going to add a new package. And I'm just going to say this is package, we'll say this is package A, we'll say this is package D, all right? And what we'll do is we'll say with package D, you get one 8x10, but you also get a free digital download as well. Now, I suggest you title your packages like this. I would never just say package D and leave it like that. And there's a specific reason why, because Zenfolio has two buying experiences. One of them only shows the title of your product or package, and so you need to let your clients know what they're getting in the package. So this is why I title packages like this. So package D, you get one 8x10 and you get one download. All right. And then what you're going to do is come down here, and if you want those to be the same photo, you can just leave it to one photo for all products. If you want to let them pick and choose, you have that option here as well. But then we're going to go add products. We're going to go to not all vendors. We'll go to MPix Pro and we will grab prints. We'll grab the 8x10 print and we'll add that in. And then what we'll do, so we have the 8x10, and then what we'll do is we'll go back up here, click Add Products again. You're going to click back up here and go to your studio name, which is going to be all the way at the bottom. Go to Zenfolio Live, go to, it won't say Zenfolio Live, mine did. Go to your studio name at the bottom of the vendor list, and then you're going to grab that digital download product. So let's just say we're going to grab this one. We'll add this in, and then now we have an 8x10 and a digital download. Anytime you add digital downloads with prints in a package, you're going to see this little warning that says these packages will ship separately. That's because the prints are physically going to be shipped to your clients, and the digital downloads are going to be emailed. No extra cost, no extra shipping fee, not going to cause any issues. We're just letting you know that your prints are going to ship, your digital downloads are going to email. And then what you can do is you can put the cost of this package or the selling price of this package between the digital download and the print. So like if you say, hey, you know what, I want this package to be $15. That's $10 for the digital or for the print, and $5 for the digital download. You can do that. Or if you want to make that digital download look like it's free to the client, you can leave that $0 selling price on the digital download. You can come back up here and you can put 15 on just the print side, and then you can save this. And so that way, whenever they purchase this, it looks like they're getting that download for free. So after you create the package, you hit done. And here is that package right here, package D, 1 8x10, 1 download. And then you would take that package and you would add it into a price list, make it available for your clients to purchase. And then as long as you do that, whenever they buy that package, they're going to get the download with that. Now, if you want everything that they buy to always come with digital downloads, you're going to have to probably create a lot of packages and put those together. So just something to think about. All right, but great question though. Thank you so much for that question. That's definitely a question that people ask a lot. Okay, let's see. Roxanne says, I didn't think that you were born when Corel Paint existed. So I can remember playing on Adobe Photoshop Deluxe. That's the first time I ever played around with photo editing. Let me know in the chat. Do you guys remember Photoshop Deluxe? It was not Photoshop Elements. It was Photoshop Deluxe. It's the first program that I remember playing with. And of course, Microsoft, what was it? The Paint program. I remember playing around with that. I never played around with Corel Paint, but wasn't there like a Corel Print or something like that as well? That was a program that was there for a while. But yeah, I can remember Corel Paint. I just never played around with it. The first program that I used was Adobe Photoshop Deluxe. So if you remember that one, let me know in the chat. Let's see. Another question. Let me grab another email question really quick. Let's see. I really want to use your vendor products since I don't want to have to deal with my own printing, but I've never used MPix. Can I somehow get a sample of the papers to make sure that's what I want to offer? So most of the labs will give you sample prints or like whatever you order in your account. So like what you do, I don't know if I can actually order these because all these photos are small. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to go in your account and find whatever gallery you want to place a sample order from so you can check out the print quality. So let's see, I've got family portraits. Let's go in here. And let's say that I want to do a sample order to see if I like the quality of the paper. What you can do is if you go here, you can say buy products, somewhere around here, buy products. And then this will take you into your account where you can buy products. And if you notice right here, it says MPix Pro Test Prints. All right, so this is where you can go in here and you can actually order 5 8x10s for free of a test print right inside of your account. I don't think MPix offers that. I think that's only an MPix Pro thing, but there's where you can see it right there. You can do test prints right here to do that. All right, so let me go back here. Let me get out of the shop and get back here. Let's see. Not Tam says, can trigger emails include a thumbnail from the client's gallery. So currently the answer to that's going to be no, unfortunately, because triggered emails are based on actions that the clients take on your website. They're not really tied to a specific gallery if you're actually talking about true triggered emails. So if you're talking about the emails that you have set up under communication and email communications, and then these triggered emails, wrong screen, these triggered emails right here, if you're talking about these triggered emails, they're not going to include a thumbnail from the client's gallery because these are not really tied to galleries. They're tied to actions that people take on your website. So these are not going to, there's not going to be a way for any of these to include any kind of thumbnails from the gallery. Now, if you're sending emails from a gallery using the gallery email or gallery invite feature, that will have a thumbnail image from the gallery. So if I go to this Wallace family gallery right here, and if I send an email or schedule an email from this gallery, so if I click on the gallery and I say email gallery, and then we put an email in here, so I'm just going to say nottams@email.com. And then we're going to scroll down, hit continue to preview. You're going to see that one will include the thumbnails if you want it to. You can always turn it off. You can just say, you know what, I don't want that. But if you leave this checked, it will include the thumbnails. But unfortunately, at the moment, the triggered emails are not going to include that thumbnail. But that's a great question. Nobody's ever asked that before. So great question. Thanks for asking. All right, guys, 55 seconds left. I want to say thank you guys so much for hanging out with me live today. Craigslist, Kathleen, Amy, Richard, Not Tams, Darren, Oli, Wondering OG. Hey, that's a nice name. Anybody else that I missed, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me live today. Don't forget, Site Review Tuesdays, every Tuesday, same time. And then back again on Thursdays for Zenfolio Live. So, hey, I hope you guys have a great weekend, a safe weekend. Make sure that sometime today, tomorrow, sometime that you do something to encourage somebody. If you have kids, if you have friends, if you have family, anybody that you have close around you, make sure that you're doing things to encourage them to be the best that they can be and doing something to put some positivity back into the world so that we can all work together and make this place better. I hope you guys have a safe weekend. I'll see you guys again next week. Hey, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure that you click that subscribe button. And if you're watching the recorded version of this and you'd like to learn more about Zenfolio, I recommend watching some of the videos that you should see popping up on your screen.